guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Again, my name is Jenny Fennell. I'm a CRNA and I'm here to help you, the aspiring CRNA, learn what it takes to become a CRNA. So let's go ahead and get started. I meant to tell you guys, in the link below is my Facebook community. I haven't figured out how to link it on my actual video yet. I'm not very tech savvy, so I am trying to learn as I go. But for now, the only thing I can figure out is in the description. I put the Facebook community that I have, and I know you guys are going to find it really valuable, and there's tons of tools, resources there to try to figure out how to become a CRNA as well as how to study for the interview. So I hope you check it out. I hope you request to join. That's ICU Dreaming About Anesthesia on Facebook. Okay, so let's get started. So how do I become a CRNA? First and foremost, you have to get your BSN. It doesn't matter how you get your BSN. You can start as an LPN and get your associate's degree and then advance to your BSN. It really does not matter. You just ultimately need to have your BSN prior to applying to anesthesia school. The next most important thing I want to discuss is grades. So grades, it's a common question and fear that people have that they are not smart enough or they don't have the best grades and therefore they don't want to apply to anesthesia school because they're not going to even be considered because they're not a 4.0 student. I'm here to tell you that plenty of CRNAs have gotten in with a 3.2 GPA or, a 3.1 even. I've met a CRNA recently who had a 3.1. It doesn't mean that you're not going to have obstacles and you may not even get a chance to interview at certain schools, but it does not mean you shouldn't try because there are schools that will interview you as long as you know going into it and you're reaching out to the programs that you're going to have to do some extra work. And by that, I mean you're going to have to probably retake a lot of your science courses from your undergrad, whether that be anatomy and chemistry or microbiology or pathophysiology. You're going to have to retake those core science classes to show that you can get better grades in those courses. It may not budge your GPA because unfortunately, once your GPA is set a certain way, it is so hard to get it to move up, but it might bump you up just a little bit. The next thing you can do is if your grades are lacking is you can take graduate level coursework. A lot of schools have prereqs like chemistry and grad stats, things like that can help ultimately boost your GPA and prove that you can handle a graduate level course. So those are some options, but definitely reach out to your school of choice and talk to the admissions counselor, talk to the program director themselves and discuss your situation and kind of take their advice on what they think you should do to help improve your odds of being a successful candidate for their program. Okay, so like I said, grades are not everything. You can have a 4.0 student walk into the interview and bomb the interview and not get in, and you can have a student who has a 3.2 who knocks the interview out of the park and they're the ones who they let in. So in my opinion, the interview plays more weight. They look at the big picture, they look at the whole picture. They don't just look at your grades and say you don't qualify. They'll look at everything. So don't be discouraged if you don't have the best GPA. Okay. All right, the next thing is ICU experience. This is important as well. And again, when they're looking at your application, they're going to look at the whole picture, but they tend to look for adult ICU experience in high acuity ICUs, like a level 1 trauma center. It doesn't mean that if you have a level 2 trauma center that you're not going to be a good candidate. It ultimately comes down to, have you been involved in committee work? Are you a leader on your unit? Have you been a charge nurse? Have you precepted students? Have you taken extra initiative to do any extra work while you're employed as an ICU nurse? Those little things can go a long way. So another word of caution for the ICU experience is if you have a passion for working with kids and you want to get out and work in the NICU or PICU or ER, for instance, another subspecialty of ICU technically, I will kind of caution you that before you choose that path, if you really think CRNA is for you, to look into the school you want to apply to and ask them directly if they take ER experience, PICU, or NICU experience, because some programs are a hard no, while some programs can bend the rules a little bit if you're a good candidate otherwise, and some schools do take those units as experience. So again, I encourage you to reach out to the school that you're considering before you take that job after graduation, just to make sure you're not going to hinder your progress to becoming a CRNA. All right, so next, prereqs. So a lot of schools require prereqs, whether that be chemistry or grad stats, something like that. So after you graduate with your BSN, you can look into enrolling in that kind of a course. I personally, my last year in my nursing program, I took a graduate level statistics course. I had to petition to get that course approved as an undergrad student to take a graduate level course, but I was a 5-year senior to get my BSN, so I had the room in my schedule and I went ahead and did it, and I'm glad I did. because when I was done with getting my BSN, I took a year, I got married, I got my CCRN, I focused and took my GRE, which I had to take twice. And then I just had to study and prep for the interview. And that was, for me, enough work to fill, I think I had interviewed after being in the ICU for 2.5 years. So that was plenty of things for me to do in the meantime. But again, if you don't get it done in your undergrad, don't worry. Just make sure that you make that a priority to get your prereqs done prior to applying to anesthesia school. All right. And okay, let's talk CCRN. Whether or not your program requires it or not, I think you should have it. Because even if they don't require it, I think it's a great thing to have. I think it shows that you have a good base as far as pathophysiology, pharmacology, and critical care knowledge. So again, even if it's not required, I would encourage you to take it anyways. I think you need about 180 hours of critical care experience before you can sit for that test. All right, next is the GRE. A lot of schools are moving away from the GRE because it has not been a good predictor of success. It is a standardized test, just like the SAT and ACT. And it's unfortunately a necessary hoop or necessary evil that you might have to jump through. I had to go through it twice. I'm not a good standardized test taker. I did try to study just by reading Kaplan and some of the other books out there and taking practice tests. And my first GRE was subpar. I didn't even meet the requirement to apply. I think the minimum was 300. I don't remember what I scored. It was under 300. But I had to retake it, and I actually paid to go to a class where I met 3 days a week, and it was mostly focused on math. And I did that 3 days a week for about 2 months, and then I retook the GRE and got a better or good enough score to apply. I think I want to say I can't remember exactly. It was between like a 310 and 320, something like that, right in that range, which was good enough to apply. So that would be that hoop to jump through. If English is your second language, you will also have to take the TOEFL test. I don't know much about that other than if English is your second language, they will make you also take that test. Okay, so application and essay. The application, again, can vary from school to school. Some applications I have heard actually make you do a little 3-minute video. They'll give you a topic and you have to actually record yourself going over that topic for 3 minutes. Almost all schools are going to require references, usually 3 references. And again, that can vary. They may give you direction as far as asking a nursing supervisor and asking a coworker or peer, or asking some kind of educator. So again, I know mine was a nursing supervisor, an educator, and a peer or coworker is who I needed my references from. Think really long and hard before you just ask your best friend to write you a reference. It's fine to ask your best friend on the unit to write you a reference, but do you know if they're going to take the time to write you a thorough reference? You want to make sure that they can really attest to your character, your work ethic, and you want someone who's going to really go in detail and depth as much as they can, and not someone who's just going to write one single little paragraph for you. You want someone who's actually going to put some thought into it. So just make sure you ask your references wisely. Okay, so the essay. The essay, if you're not a good writer, I would highly encourage you to try to seek out help on how to write a good essay. I wouldn't consider myself a good writer myself. I did utilize my sister and my own mother when I applied to school and had them proofread for me and had them critique it. I think I even asked some coworkers of mine to critique it for me. So I did reach out for help on my essay. I would encourage you to do the same, just because sometimes it's nice to have a different point of view on that. And if you happen to know a CRNA, that would be a really good person to have them read your essay if you could reach out to someone like that. All right, and so last but not least, the most important part of the entire picture, you guys, is the interview. I can't stress to you guys enough how important the interview is as far as getting accepted into your program. You can be a great candidate on paper and have a great GPA and great ICU background, but if you can't do good on the interview, chances are you're not going to be accepted. One thing I will stress to you, though, is if you do get the chance to interview and you do not get in, please reach out to the program director to see what you can do to improve upon. They will give you tips and advice on things you can do, and do those things. If you do those things they ask you to do, then chances are you come back the next year you interview. As long as you can do better on the interview portion, chances are you're going to get in. I also encourage you to reach out to the program before you apply and have them review your application. And if they make suggestions, do those suggestions. And even if those suggestions are retaking old coursework, don't bother not doing that and then applying and wondering why you didn't get in or why you didn't get an interview. You have to take their suggestions. If they say you need to retake certain classes, retake those classes if you really want to get in. I'm telling you, if you do what they ask you to do, chances are they're going to take notice of that, and they're going to be appreciative of that and know that you're a hard worker and that you're committed and dedicated, and they're going to give you a much better chance of getting into their program. Also, don't forget to have questions to ask them. You want it to be a good fit for you, but and they want to be a good fit for them. So you have to make sure you're actually interviewing them a little bit too. Some things you can ask them are, what are their board passing rates if you don't already know that? What kind of clinical numbers do they get for specialty rotations like blocks and hearts? Do they have, how many hours in sim lab do you get before you start clinical? Those are all good questions to ask. But again, and they may ask you why you want to go to this particular program. You should know about the program, do your research, do your homework, talk to fellow students. Try to, when you do your job shadowing experience, you need to talk to them about where they went to school, and just try to dig deep as you can as far as how the interview process went for them, how do they prepare. So utilize your shadowing opportunity that you have to do for the application anyways to dig into why they became a CRNA and what school was like for them and where they went to school and were they happy and did they feel like they had support, and what was stressful about it, and things like that. Just kind of ask questions and poke around. That'll kind of help you and guide you to what it is that you need to ask when you get the chance to interview. So hope you guys found that helpful. Again, that was kind of just a real quick rundown. If you want more information, please check out my Facebook community. I go into more detail there. I try to make these videos short so I don't lose people in their attention span. All right, you guys have a good rest of your day. Bye.